Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain
Podcast.
Where we navigate neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance. We usually go through some sort of a story, then we usually kind of dig into some kind of strategy, and oftentimes we're following some sort of book, and then we like to ask our community what they might contribute. So we're welcoming.
I'm sorry, it's official. Ned is dead.
Oh, no.
Ned has gooped all over me. Ew.
So if you haven't been following us, for those of you who are new, welcome. But she has the Nido, the Ned little squishy gummy type thing she does, and it has apparently exploded all over her. We may never get her back, folks. It is unclear. Unclear.
Sorry. Okay, I have paper towels.
Lots of paper towels.
Look, Michelle, it's all over the book.
Well, why don't you go to the restroom and take care of it? It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, God. It's everywhere. It's like that goo from Ghostbusters.
Oh, you've been slimed, Megan.
I've been slimed. Wait, where did he come out of? Out of his butt. Oh.
Well, you have been up in Gummy Bear butt for a while now. So poor Nido.
Poor Ned the Nido. Like, it's great until it's not. It's fine. I'm fine.
I don't think you're fine. This is a podcast where we're navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance. So you just radically accepted Ned. Ned just...
He exploded out of his butt. He had explosive
whatever
goo.
that stuff is. Goo. Yes. So if you're new to our podcast, then welcome.
Hi.
We do have a Spicy Brain Studios Facebook page that we'd love to invite you to. And if you're returning, welcome back. And of course, all of these antics are nothing new to you. You know how we are. And we just go with the flow on this one.
We do.
We had been planning at one point to do a book called ADHD for Women. And we realized we really wanted more of a book club with that as opposed to, because we needed to have people who had different flavors of ADHD. And we didn't have enough represented between the two of us to do that. So I think we want to still encourage that. So we'll be posting something about that in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in joining us on that book club, we have a wonderful, wonderful friend of ours, Heather, who's amazing at book clubs actually and facilitating them. And we're really excited to get started on that. So we decided to kind of switch gears, and we are going to be looking at how ADHD affects home organization. Now, you found this incredible woman, Lisa Woodruff,
Yes.
And I remember the first time I came out to visit you, only time I've come out since you've moved, but to California, that you found her, and you were on and on about a Sunday basket. And I was picturing like a sweet little... Goldilocks basket, where there would be like a bow and a ribbon and it would be so cute. And it's like a Sunday basket. And I was thinking, oh, that's so adorable. And for some reason I was thinking there was going to be like preserves in it or something. Like there was like, I couldn't understand
like
what it
our
was.
Easter baskets that we used to have.
Exactly.
That we used to take to get blessed.
Yes.
Like those.
At church. Yes.
Yep.
The Polish tradition of getting your food blessed at church. So
who used to make did we used to make the lammy butter?
We made lammy butter. Yeah, we would carve a little lamb out of butter. Yes.
Oh,
that's been a long time. I haven't done that in a long time.
Oh my gosh, we've done that in years.
Yeah.
Decade maybe.
Yeah, and that was representing Lamb of God, like the whole thing, right? Okay, yeah. So we were very Catholic growing up, just for anybody who didn't know. So that's a thing. So, okay, you said the Sunday basket, and that was the image I had. And then I came and saw your Sunday basket.
Yeah.
Can you describe your Sunday basket? And then we'll get to, the home organization piece. But, like, what does it look like, Megan, the Sunday basket?
Well,
Sunday basket.
Yeah. Right now, it's just like a purple box. It's just a square box. Now, when you first came out,
it did not look like that.
No, it was my hamper
Yeah, it was like a giant clothes basket that was just filled with stuff.
Yeah.
Is how I
well,
saw
because I had so much stuff. So like it's basically a collection plate for your paper stuff. Because that's for me the thing that is just so hard. No, sorry. It's a physical box for your to-dos.
Oh, not just your paper stuff, your to-dos.
Right.
Something you need to do an action on.
Correct.
Wow, you had a lot of actions.
Yeah. My brain.
I mean, it was like a big laundry basket, like one of those plastic laundry baskets with the, you would have handles on it, right? And it's
like a 2 foot by 1 foot, maybe?
And it was full to the brim and beyond.
Yep.
And those were all to-dos?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So
that was actually less.
Wow.
I had actually worked through quite a bit by that point. I think I had like 2 or 3 baskets at one point.
Oh my gosh.
Of just stuff that I needed to like process, or, papers that just piled up, or, mail, all the junk mail you get. I mean, all of that.
All of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's all your mail and whatnot for a number of months?
Years.
Okay.
The very first time I started this, it was I think I didn't do the Sunday basket a while ago. Like, okay, sorry. So I think there was like that first time before I knew about the Sunday basket, and I had like grabbed all of my papers because we were doing the Marie Kondo thing. And
and that was a disaster for you, by the way. Anybody who's ADHD, I don't know if Marie Kondo works. If they do, if she does,
bless her heart,
let Megan know, because for Megan it was not a good fit.
No, because it if you start doing that, then everything just gets piled up, and then there's no rhyme or reason to it. And of course I'm going to get distracted, and then I'm going to leave it, and I'm not going to, and then it's just sitting there, and then I've got an even bigger mess than I had before.
Okay. So as you're talking about this though, what the Sunday basket is your to-dos.
Yeah.
And you heard about Lisa on a podcast?
Well, I heard through her through YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. I had heard a little bit about this, but I was listening to this woman I think she's called the Clutter Bug, and she has different ideas of like each person has an insect that like they represent. So when it comes to their organizational style, so some people really enjoy having things behind closed doors. And, and then some people really like having things all out, or they like having things, in bins. And then you get into like, okay, if you have something in a bin, how do you actually organize in that bin? Do you just like shove things in there and just have a general category? Or are you very micro, like you get down into the weeds of what the categorizing
is? Yeah. Interesting.
So she was talking about that, because I was like thinking like, hey, I gotta organize. Well, she had Lisa Woodruff on at one point, and so Lisa was talking about that because this woman who's a clutter bug, I think her name is Cass, I could be wrong, she is also ADHD. So they were talking about the fact that ADHD people have the hardest time with organization, because it's hard for people with ADHD to get the ball rolling. And also they have just so many things they want to do in their mind. And so it's like, it's just a challenge. It's a double challenge, triple challenge,
Well, she goes through. And so you had turned me on to this, and I got her book. And so I've been listening to her book, because that's the easiest way for me to take information in. And I think you read it. Yeah. If you're interested in her podcast, it's episode 101. So we'll post that. And again, it's How ADHD Affects Home Organization. Lisa Woodruff, she has her own book, which is great, and a podcast specifically about the Sunday basket. But that's where kind of you started, was the Sunday basket, I think.
Yeah, I started listening to a few of those podcasts that she had. Right. And she's like, okay, grab every to-do item and just shove it in the box. If it's like you got to return something, if you have to replace a battery, if you have, all your paper, put all your paper in there, and just collect it all so you have it in one spot, and then you can go through that.
Yeah, and you do that on Sundays or a regular day.
Yeah, like you choose a day ultimately that you want to do it. So getting started is way more complicated, but then like once you kind of have sifted through everything. The idea is that you spend one day a week. Typically people do Sunday, but it can be really any day. And that you spend that day organizing and going through all of your stuff and trying to decide, like planning out your week. Okay, so, I have these returns I have to do. I have this computer work I have to do. Like, can you get it done on Sunday? If not, then when am I going to do it?
Okay. So I was interested in this because of the Sunday basket, really. Just the term kind of, again, brought all these things to mind.
Yeah.
And then seeing you with this giant basket, I was like, okay, how is this going to work, and is this going to work? And so this was about 6 months ago, right, that you started this, and we sort of talked about it. And I haven't really been curious about where you've been with all of this since then, so we're going to dig into that a little bit today. But I did want to kind of go over, she was a former educator, and she talks about the fact that there's sort of these 8 sort of pieces of executive functioning, and 6 of them she deals with in this book. She doesn't really talk about impulse control much or emotional control because she doesn't feel like, I think that that's her level of expertise. But as an organizer, so she has a business, so she does home organization now as like her business, and she sees a lot of similarities with the 3rd graders she used to teach sometimes and that had ADHD. Yeah. And not to say that people with ADHD who are older are 3rd graders. That's not where I was going. But that she had 3rd graders and that had ADHD. And she saw that some of the same things that were difficult for them in school were also things that made it difficult to be organized at home. And so I just want to go through these. And she said some people have all of these things are difficult. Some have more or less one or another. And I thought it'd be interesting if you and I just went through and did our own little list right now to see which ones resonate with us. Okay, so flexible thinking is number 1. And so flexible thinking, she defines as adjusting to the unexpected. Someone who has a hard time with this has a hard time when somebody changes their plans at the last minute. And I was like, I think that's me. I think. Now, she goes on later to talk about what it means to be flexible in your thinking with organization at home. Yeah. And I think I'm quite good at that. But I don't think I'm good when people change my plans. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that.
You're actually really good when people change your plans, I think.
I am. I'm. Yeah, I am. I think that's been learned over time because I was not okay with that a long time ago. But I still have, like, there are still some things, like if emotionally things don't go the way I think, like they just kind of spring up on me, then I do have trouble with that still, with certain emotional objects and things, especially like cleaning. Like when it comes to cleaning, yes, I have a hard time with flexible thinking. But for everything else, it's like,
you've kind of worked through it, but the actual home stuff is a little bit more difficult.
Very difficult.
So interesting. Yeah. So anyway, as you guys are listening, if you're kind of like taking note, number 1's flexible thinking. So kind of think about yourself, score yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being you're super flexible maybe, and 1 is maybe not so much. I'm going to give myself like a 1.5. When it comes to plans, like it's hard for me for sure.
That is true.
As you know. But okay, working memory. So she defines working memory as having the ability to keep multiple pieces of information in your mind at the same time. So somebody who struggles with this easily forgets what they were saying in a conversation or misses steps in a multi-step direction. So I can already tell you I've said way too much for Rosie. So 1 to 5, Rosie, like where are you on working memory? And do you remember what I just said?
Well, what is 5 and what is 1?
Right. Sorry. So 5 means you feel really strong with working memory, and 1 means you don't have much of a working memory.
Oh yeah, 1. Can I be 0? Can I be like negative on that one?
Right. And it's so funny when you say that. It's like multi-step directions. And I know we had an entire podcast about vacuuming and how many steps there are in the process of vacuuming. So like even just that would be a lot. Okay. All right.
Oh, Michelle, would you like to hear my success story now that I know that I have an issue with this?
I do. Yeah. For working memory.
for working memory.
Okay.
Because I'm volunteering at the aquarium now.
Yes. It's so exciting.
And
Monterey Bay Aquarium. Very cool.
It's so exciting. And they're teaching us all these things about different animals and different, all the different names. And I just like cannot keep, there's something called a red banded fallow rope. And the only way that I can remember fallow rope is if I wrote it down. Because I was like, you guys keep trying to tell me stuff and I can't remember it. Yeah. And so I finally just like took a pen and a piece of paper and started writing things down.
Good job.
And I'm remembering more.
That is so good. I was just telling a student of mine the other day, I was like, you need to write down your steps, because for you right now, that's really tough to just try to keep them in there. That this is normal struggle. Okay. So you're going to give yourself a 0 out of,
out of 5.
One is the low, 5 is the high. You say you're lower
0.
than the low. So 0 with working memory. That's actually been diagnosed for you and really common for people with ADHD. So that's that sounds right. Okay.
I actually do have short-term memory loss.
Where were you on the 1 to 5? 5 being highest, 1 being lowest for flexible thinking.
Oh, I would say I'm probably like a 4.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty good with flexible thinking for the most part. When it comes to like my home, a 2.
A 2. So interesting. You might be more flexible. Yeah, that's interesting. So like in my daily life, I think I'm like a 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like when plans get changed. And I think in my home, I'm like a 4 or 5. Like I can. Yeah, but it's interesting. Okay.
Wait. No, you mean when you're at home, like when it's your plans, you're a 1.5 or 2.
I did mean that. A 1.5 or 2, right? I can't even keep myself straight.
I love you so much, Michelle, but like plans being changed is not your strong suit.
Not easy.
So many other things are amazing about you, but
I out myself 100%. You're exactly right. I just did it the wrong way. That's my dyslexia. I'll blame it on that, right? Okay. Self-monitoring, ability to evaluate what you're doing compared to other people. So when you struggle with this, you can have overly positive or overly negative view of yourself. What do you think?
I mean, the self-monitoring is hard for me because I'm just like, why do people care what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have a hard, and then when I am finally aware of what I've done, I definitely get self-conscious about it, and I think about it over and over and over again, and I obsess about it. Yeah.
So self-monitoring, you'd put yourself closer to a 1 or a 2. Like you're overly negative or overly negative for you, right? Most of the
100%.
Okay.
Oh, overly negative. How about you?
I think I'm pretty good with this, but maybe I'm overly positive. I don't know. I just always think I'm right. So it's maybe not. Maybe I'm a 1 or a 2 also, but on the overly positive side, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably right. I mean, I don't know. I never
seen this as a problem for you.
No, I don't think it is a problem for me specifically, but I can understand also that other people may not feel that way about me. Okay, task initiation. So number 4 on her list is task initiation, ability to take initiative to get started. I think this is something I'm very good at.
Yes, you
are.
I
just do stuff. I just get in and I do it. And I know this has been the big curiosity I've had with you, is that I didn't fully appreciate, or I think I might have given you a hard time. I mean, I gave you a hard time about it, or I was trying to fix you with this a lot. Yeah. So like the struggle, like you know what to do, but you can't make yourself do it, is sort of the people who struggle with it. Where would you put yourself on that spectrum?
Yeah, I'm definitely a 1.
Yeah.
I might be a 0.5. It is super hard to initiate things.
Yeah. And I mean, as we're talking about this, we'll get into how this impacts home organization, but I think it makes sense, right? If like part of what you need to do is move stuff and you're having trouble initiating doing that, then that could make home organization really hard, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 5, and then we have 6, and that's it. Okay, so planning. Okay. Number 5 is planning, and the ability to pick out what is most important thing to do next in order to get everything done. So if you struggle with this, she says, like, you resist making lists because you're overwhelmed with everything that needs to be done. And you can't prioritize the weight of what needs to be done potentially. And the default is to only take care of the things when they reach a critical state. So where do you find yourself on this? And I know this is sort of where you're sort of also maybe you're starting to transition into different phases of this. So
yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking that I started off being like a 1 with this when I was younger. But I'm learning how to make lists. I just don't know how to initiate the list a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm probably like a 2.5, maybe a 3 on this one.
Okay.
Like I'm sort of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. And I think like this is something that I tend to be very good at in some ways, right? Like I think but almost taking it to an extreme, I think sometimes for me. Like I'm really good at planning, but like that planning / anxiety piece for me has been something I've had to work on. So like I think I'm like a 4.5, 5, like in terms of being able to do it. But it came from a place of trauma a little bit. And so I've had to work at like, okay, great, that's a superpower you have, but you don't have to use it for like every aspect of your life. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to like plan how to get the gas. You know what I mean? Like you can just go get the gas. Like it's okay, right? So I think I'm on the other side of it a little bit.
Well, because I mean, if you think about your flexibility, right?
Yeah.
If you have less flexibility than yes, you're really good at making these plans. And that's where, like, I think the flexibility part comes in where, like, the plans can't shift.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Or it's jarring.
Yeah, it's emotionally jarring for me, for sure. And I think what's interesting is when you said that, it made me realize, like, when we are problem solving together, you know, oftentimes we're like, oh, we have a paperclip and a penny and a pencil and a this, and we have to make curtains out of it, you know, and, like, you and I can do that. So in that sense, I think we both have really flexible thinking. But you're right. Like when it's a plan I've initiated or a plan I wanted to do, that being flexible piece is hard for sure for me.
It's like if you know going into it that we're going to be flexible, then you're totally cool with it. But like if you don't know, then it's jarring.
And then maybe someone has a tantrum. I don't know. Just saying.
I mean,
you're not going to out me on public.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I can confirm. The girl loses it. Okay, sometimes. Oh my goodness. All right, last one is organization, which is sort of funny since like the whole thing is about organization. But she says organization is the ability to take care of a thing mentally and physically. To take care of things mentally and physically. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And people have a hard time with this, have a hard time putting things away. And remembering where they left items when they are not put away. And I was curious where you find yourself on this one.
I think I'm gonna go with the 0.
A 0?
Because okay, here's the great example, Michelle.
Yeah.
Brian and I were gonna go do our little cutesy fartsy this morning. And we're gonna go have some food. And I'm looking for my keys and I cannot find my keys because, you know, there was some weird stuff happening when I came in the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Brian, I don't know where they are. And so he's, you know, trying to get it all. So I end up opening the front door and there they were in the front door.
Oh, no.
Just hanging
out, waiting for you to come back for them.
Waiting for me to come.
Oh my goodness. You know,
left them in the front door.
I'm going to say, actually, I put myself quite low on this.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I do have a hard time putting things away still. I do it, but it's oftentimes quite painful. And I have no idea if I don't make a spot. I had a boyfriend once who was like, you remember my college boyfriend, and he was like, you just need a red bucket and you just need to put the keys in the red bucket. And I was like, but then I'll lose the red bucket. Like I couldn't do it. And what was interesting is I had no organizational skills, but I think because I grew up with two people who had attention issues potentially, right? It was like it's a genetic thing. And I remember Heather, who's doing our Facebook with us and going to do the book club. Thank you, Heather. We love you.
We love you, Heather.
She came and organized my apartment. And I remember she had a place for me to put my keys. And I was like, oh, you could have a bowl or something. Right now it seems so normal, but I never had heard of that. And so now I always have a place by the front door where I leave my keys. But if I don't, forget it. So this is one of the kids who I was helping out with Josh's school during the pandemic. And this girl, she was very interested in psychology and whatever. And she remembered, she looks at me and she's like, you just don't have any object permanence. And I was like, oh my God, like I did educational psychology. I'm like, what a great term. I do not. I have no object permanence, meaning like when I leave something somewhere forever, my staff is coming and giving me a coffee cup or my Diet Coke or something because I'm leaving it. So I think I'm quite low on this, actually.
That's true. Like I have to go find things for you.
All the time.
And I'm still finding things for you, even living in different parts of the world.
Because you have that like photographic memory of
where you've left things.
Yeah. Which is funny. You don't use it for yourself all that much.
Yeah. Cause it's because I'm overwhelmed emotionally. And so I'm not actually paying attention.
I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise there would be no problem. Yeah. So I'm going to put myself down as like a 1 or a 2 on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Not very good at it at all. But I have great planning and, like I think those other things help me to make it so I'm not dysfunctional with it most of the time.
Yeah. It's like you did get some of the spicy sauce.
I got the spicy sauce. Yeah.
But like the parts that you did get help you so you don't seem like you're spicy as much.
And yet here I am being curious and learning that I'm quite spicy.
I might be
like a picante.
You're like a covert spicy. You're a picante.
I don't know. I'm like mild spice. Like
you're
maybe.
Like mild. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not quite as spicy as you, but like I definitely have it for sure.
Yeah.
And it does drive me crazy and those around me crazy when I get crazy about it. Because it's very disconcerting not knowing where something is, right? And for me.
Well,
so.
Do you think that that's something maybe you could start becoming more curious about for yourself? And I think since we've kind of gone through this, that like you could give yourself a little more grace because like that's just your brain.
Absolutely. No, I think I've been doing that as we've been going along, like recognizing like, oh yeah, these are parts of me. And this was just really interesting because I have a fairly organized house.
Yeah.
And I really love organization and I love thinking about it. And it drives you crazy that I like love it so much sometimes, I think. But but part of it is because of not being able to find things. And so like I need it to be like, okay, I have to know this goes here all the time. And so like even kind of to the point that, because obviously mom and I live together and she just like leaves. If she doesn't know where something goes, she doesn't try to put it away. She'll just leave it on the counter for me. And I was like, oh, thank you. But I think that's because she's like, it's not because she can't bend down to do it or something. Like, I think it's that she's like, she's recognizing my spiciness and she just lets me be.
Hey, that's progress.
That's progress. We love it. I love it so much.
Good job, Mom. Woohoo.
So one of the things that I resonated with when reading this book was she asks the question, are you a perfectionist?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was 100%. I dabbled in OCD.
Did you dabble in it?
I had OCD tendencies for sure. That was very much due to trauma. So I think that just, not being able to control things around me, I needed to control something. And so it was easy to control my space. And as I've, worked through that, I am now not quite as much of a perfectionist. Oh, yeah. Another story, Michelle.
Okay.
I don't think I told you this at all, but I put up all our curtains here, right?
Yeah.
Put them all up. And I was like, okay, putting them up, just doing it super quick, which,
it's not you. No, we used to have to measure like 19 times and it would take us 15 hours to get one curtain up. Yep. Not kidding. No, it would take us multiple days.
People.
Multiple days.
She's not kidding. And I would just be terrified to put one screw in. So I was doing some handy gal gigs, and I went to go put up curtains for somebody, and she was like, it was specific. And so I'm measuring and remeasuring and trying to make sure, and like, we're spending time together, and okay, and I was thinking to myself like, wow, I have come so far.
Yes.
That I can just like, it's fine. It's good enough. It's close enough.
Amazing. Yeah, I know. And it is really great. And I was trying to think, like, I remember having a lot of perfectionism tendencies as well. I think trauma-based, kind of tendencies of like wanting to control. And I think that's something I still have to watch myself with. I don't know that it's like something you cure yourself of specifically, but it's like really being curious about when I'm starting to go down that path, right? And I remember coming home. I don't know if we've told this story, but I remember coming home from college, and I was using the bathroom, our shared bathroom, and I took the hairbrush or whatever, and I was brushing my hair, and I put it down and didn't think anything of it and walked away. And I remember, like, it was years later that you told me that you thought I was doing that on purpose, that I was moving something on purpose. And of course I wasn't. And we had that discussion that was something that you kind of had it a certain way, and the way you had it helped, right? Like whatever.
It lined up with the sink. So it was parallel with the sink, and it was on the right-hand side so that like I could just turn the water on with my left hand. I could take my brush with my right hand, comb. It all made sense.
It was very efficient for you.
And you come in and you're like,
willy-nilly.
Tasmanian devil. Just, messing up my routine. And I was just like, what? I still have dreams about that bathroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That bathroom was a whole...
And having to share that bathroom.
Oh, I'm so sorry I caused so much trouble. So I think that if I have perfectionism pieces, it's not around things so much, but maybe my own performance on something, or, like even getting ready for a podcast. Like I sort of have a ritual for it, and I kind of want to make sure I have things kind of organized. So I think there's still some of that for me and she says that if you are a perfectionist, it's just going to make the home organization, the symptoms you might have that might be mild or something. If you have a perfectionist tendencies, it could really exacerbate it, make it much worse, much harder for you to become organized in your home.
Yeah, I definitely had a hard time in the beginning, before I really had worked through my trauma, to be able to organize my home. It was always crazy. You know that. Like it was just always a mess. And because it's like, if you can't do it right, then why do it at all? Yes. And so then, and that's the fallacy. I think people think if you are a perfectionist that you're going to have everything perfect. And it's like, no, it's fine. As long as it's just not perfect at all, as long as it's
a complete disaster, then it's fine.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because if it's a little bit off, or what if I do it wrong? What if it's, the wrong mistake? And I've just had to kind of work through that and just little by little test the theory. Like, is it okay? If I do this thing, will I be okay? How do I feel? Just subjecting myself to little units of distress.
Trying to do something, even if it's not perfect, but allowing yourself to try it and see how it feels. Yeah. That's interesting. I know in her book, she says it's really about the journey, not the destination. And it's about progress, not perfection. And I liked that a lot, like that you're making progress and identifying what progress you made. So I wanted to dig into this a little bit, because you've now been kind of dabbling, I would say, in this system for the past 6 months. Mm-hmm. And could you give us kind of a description of maybe some progress you've made and what you feel like has benefited you from some of the work that she's done or talked about?
Yeah. I think the biggest progress I've made is that my Sunday basket is smaller.
That's huge. It's like a physical manifestation of the work you've done.
Yeah, and I just have had to go through those things little by little, and that's why the basket was there for such like probably a good 3 months, because I just couldn't I couldn't start. I think that's that part, that what the executive function
initiation,
part of, yeah, initiation was really hard for me. And so I would just like, okay, I'm going to pull out all of the like the recycle I can see. Okay, I'm just going to try to, and then I get to certain parts of it and I would stop myself and not do it. And I just allowed myself to not do it. And I was thinking like, okay, I'm supposed to do this whole Sunday day thing. And I haven't, I mean, I've been doing it for 6 months and I still have not yet done an actual Sunday basket on Sunday or whatever day I want.
Like you just pick some day when you have the energy to do it. And yeah,
at this point. Yeah. And the nice thing about it is that when it's your to-dos, it first of all showed me I had way too many to-dos and I needed to get real. Brian always said, he's like, Megan, you have so many projects. And are you just going to make another project for yourself? And so I have to really think about that every time I'm looking at something. I'm like, is this a project? Because if it has more than 2 steps, it's a project. And it's super easy, I think, for ADHD people to like look at something and be like, I could do 12 million things with this and I'm going to, and then you're never going to do it. So that was a being able to see it was great, but then also knowing that, okay, here's all of my to-dos. So if I do kind of pants are on fire, oh my gosh, I got to get this thing done. Where is it? I at least knew where it was. Like I knew it was in that box because I had taken everything from my home and I had put it there. And I think that was probably the most valuable thing I learned from this, is that to have a space where that random thing that you don't know what to do with, put it in the box and then you'll deal with it later.
Yeah. And don't let it distract you from whatever you're doing now.
Yeah. Like for instance, I'm trying to clean out this room right now and I was so overwhelmed by it all yesterday. And I was like, okay, well, where can I start? And I was like, well, what can I put in my Sunday basket? Like that was literally the first thing I did. Well, I think I got some trash, but then I thought, the second one was where, what can I put in my Sunday basket? And so it was any piece of paper I could find. I was like, yep. Do I have to keep it? Sure. Put it in the Sunday basket. Is it something I have to do? Yep. Put it in the Sunday basket.
I don't have to make that decision right now. I can just put it. The only decision I have to make is to put it there.
Correct.
That's awesome.
And that really helped me, especially like when you're having to make so many other decisions in the room that you're trying to clean up, to say like, okay, I'm going to have a specific designated time and place that I'm going to deal with this. It's just not right now. And I kind of love that for being ADHD, because how easy is it to get distracted by things, right? You're like,
right.
There's that, I really did like the idea of when you bring your mail in, you process it right away. In theory, in practice, it's really good to keep your junk mail to a minimum. However, it is terrible for an ADHD brain to remember what to do with said items if there's an issue, or it can, easily trigger you into not remembering, or there's a whole lot of potential landmines in that mail. So what I like about the Sunday basket is she says, just bring your mail in and just toss it into the Sunday basket. If there's anything that's like, obviously,
right. If there's like a red notice or something. That's that whole, I think, like, okay, there's something on fire. I got to deal with it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But her thought is that, the amount of time that it'll take you to open the mail, process it, and then start kind of getting into the flow of processing. If you have to do that, getting into the flow every single day, you're wasting time by like getting your brain started. When if you just do it all at the same time every week, you'll get it processed every week. And you only have one day where your brain has to kind of start the process, and then you kind of can get into the flow.
So it really like it I think meets that need of efficiency that you have, but also it's like, I liked what you said too, where there's these potential landmines and this is going to take me down some road that I might not be able to get myself out of quickly to go do the
Yeah.
other things I needed to do that day. That's interesting.
Because you don't know like what the landmine could be. I mean, literally, like I think I got a donation request from Wounded Warriors, and it just took me down a whole path that I was not prepared. And they have like little tchotchkes that they send you and all of this. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And I had a whole moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So Sunday basket, deal with it Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, like the Catholic Diocese sent me something. I don't even know why, but they did. And then I was like, how do I get rid of this prayer? Oh my, what can I do with it? Like, can I send it to mom? I don't know. Should I send? I had this like, I went through a whole thing.
Whole thing.
It was like a whole landmine that I was not prepared for. And luckily I did it on the day I was processing everything. But I could like, in the past, I've definitely had those, random collection of like for $30, like where did this come from? And then I'm just freaking out about it for like the rest of the week, and I don't actually do anything with it,
but it's on your mind and taking up bandwidth.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. She brought that up like pretty early on in the book, and so I'm just like, this is just basically from kind of the first chapter or the first part of what she was saying. But she says, and I thought I would be curious to see where you are in this process. She said, number one, use people resources to keep you focused and on track. So the last podcast we just did was all about the focus revolution, I think, or the, right. Mm-hmm. ADHD revolution. And I think you are doing that. And so if you can't have a professional organizer, are there ways to have people help you, whether it's through body mirroring or, somebody who's going to mentor you or some process or service like the one that you've been using, which is so cool.
Or a neighbor or a sister who's in Japan while you're in New York.
When I was in Japan and you were in New York, yes. Or now you have your own person, your own Michelle that is...
I have my own Michelle.
Yes, who we're so excited about. And then she says, like, second thing is create structure and use it. And so the Sunday basket was what she mentions first. And it sounds like you've really taken to that one to try. Are there any other structures that you've put in place yet? Or is there anything else that you're...
within the Sunday basket, there's different file folders that you can... sort of things that might need to get accessed on a regular basis. So like it could be medical information. If you have a kid, it could be their school schedules or whatnot. And so I started implementing just recently I started actually like utilizing the file folders, and I even labeled them.
Oh my gosh.
Go figure.
Go figure.
And so I'm starting down that process, but I think I still have not
keeping the class schedule or the whatever with the papers that it connects to. That's smart. Yeah, having a calendar of things. Yeah.
Or having like all of your computer tasks in one folder so you can take that folder to the computer and not lose it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different... there's also one for errands, right? So you have this one that will go with... You put it in your car. Like, okay, there's these things I know I can't do, but I'm going to get the errands and I'm going to take it right with you. So there's some really great options. I have yet to like bring it all together.
Sure.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult to start anything new. And so just like not beating myself up is a huge part of this. And I look back on like, you saying my original Sunday basket and how big it was. And it's like, I literally have gotten my basket down to a 2 by 2, 2 feet by 2, no, 2 feet by 2 feet. Wait.
A foot by a foot, I think.
A foot by a foot.
Yeah.
And like, I know that that's where everything is.
It's amazing. That's so great because that's never been true for you. So what progress? No. That's amazing.
And I might go 2 or 3 weeks and not process things, but I know I've got I know I need to start processing. Mm-hmm. It's at the point now where it's just overflowing. Like, okay, I need to process, but I know it's there. So like, when Brian was doing some medical stuff here in town, I would just he would just give me these papers and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? Why are you giving it to me? Because he knows that I'll at least know where it is. So I just like, okay, well, I'll make a file folder for you. And then I told him, like, hey, it's in the Sunday basket if you ever need it. He's like, well, where is it? I'm like, it's in the Sunday basket. Look for the blue folder. It has your name on it. So then he knows where to go. And so that's the cool part, is that potentially once it kind of gets established, you as a family can come together and utilize it together. So it has to be in a location that is available for everyone to see, like you go to often. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea that she will write down questions that she has for her husband, and then she puts them in the Sunday basket so that she doesn't bother him in the middle of the work, which is smart.
So
and then
smart.
She's like, hey, I have all these questions for you. Let me just answer them all right off the bat. Brilliant.
Love it. Saving a marriage
Have I done it yet? No.
But
it's a
goal, right? Or something that you're working towards and iterating towards, which I guess is kind of goes back to the point of that progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection. And then the third thing she says is less stuff helps.
That's true.
And I do think that is true, that less things help. That's hard, though.
It is hard. And that's where I have been working to say goodbye to things, because less stuff does help. And I haven't fully gotten to like where I would like to be. However, I keep making progress, and I feel so good about the progress I'm making, and I can see the progress I'm making. And I think that is the challenge for an ADHD person, is to say, okay, this is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen overnight. And my brain wants it to happen overnight. My brain is like, in my mind, I can see my entire house just magically being beautiful.
Like I Dream of Jeannie, you would like swing your little ponytail and it would all be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so true and so hard, right? Because it's never that way.
No, it isn't. And it's painful. And it's like, again, those landmines, and then life gets in the way. And, you know, there's just so many obstacles and variables. But if we just keep little by little doing it, right?
Yes.
Who was our lady that Elisa,
yes.
Elisa would say little by little, and just get a little bit here and a little bit there, and
every day it'll be a little bit better.
And pat yourself on the back. Like, that's the thing for me as an ADHD human, neurodivergent human. I have to write it down so I know what I've done. Otherwise, it's like, did I even do it?
Maybe you can put like kudos, like stars for yourself in your Sunday basket so you can remember you did good things.
That would be good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am so curious if anyone else in our community has any tricks or tips. We're going to go over the next couple of weeks, like each of these sort of areas where, you know, some strategies that she suggests. For example, if working memory is an issue, like here's some strategies that she recommends. And we'll go through each of the list of the top 6 things that she said she covers in the book in terms of executive functioning. And then there's some other pieces that she brings in as well. But I'm curious if anyone in our community has one that they feel really strong, you know, one of those 6 that they feel very strong about, or one of them that they also identify as being kind of low. And I thought it was interesting that my organization was low.
I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, and that everything else I do is to compensates. You know, so that's, I think, that idea of like, do you have ADHD tendencies, or do you have, does it cause you to not be functioning or non-functioning in certain aspects of your life? And, you know, you might be sort of on the spectrum of it, right? And you might have a little dash of ADHD, but maybe not full blown to the point that it's causing, you know, massive problems in your life. But I can still identify the fact that like I have to be kind to myself about it, because it's easy to kind of bring in shame or feeling like the shoulds, right? And you always talk about it as, you know, you just should it all over yourself, right? Like you should do this, you should do that, right?
Stop shitting all over yourself.
Exactly.
Well, you know, for a couple things, you know, your little dash of cayenne pepper, you know, a little dash of it. I think that's why we talk more about, like, why we changed the name of the podcast to Spicy Brain, because it's not just about ADHD. It's about this like neurodivergence
Yes.
And you have some divergence from the norm.
Absolutely.
And it did make sense when you said it's sort of like trauma. Like, you can have trauma in your life, but does it cause you, it doesn't become a problem until it physically stops you from living.
Yeah.
And so like that to me is like sort of when the disorder part of it comes in. It becomes a disorder when it affects your life. Mm-hmm. And so like it's interesting that you could have like attention deficit, like you could be AD or you could be ADH, but not necessarily the last D, because it's not if it's not hurting you.
Right. Like in school, I had more drawings than any kid I know, all in the margins of my notes, because it was difficult for me to pay attention. And I would sit and draw almost meditatively to keep my focus, right? And so when I think about that, I was like, well, that seems like something that I did to help me because I was struggling attending, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it was completely lecture-based back in the day, and I do learn well from that. Unless somebody's really boring, and then you're like, yeah. So anyway, I agree. I think that it's like whether or not it becomes a disorder is dependent on how severe it is, and maybe also, how it manifests itself and how many of the things, right? Like if you have 2 of the 6 things that are difficult, but you have the other 4 are very strong, maybe it's not as disordered for you as someone where it's almost all of them.
Yeah. It does make me wonder if like on the spectrum of how ADHD affects your life, like can you go from it, sometimes it can be a disorder and then other times it can be a distinction, and like you sort of have this pendulum where you're never really, there are times in life where it's debilitating.
Yes.
And it's sometimes like it's just makes you awesome.
I think so. And I think it can affect, the more I've read is understanding that it not only affects every person differently, it can affect the same person differently within the same day.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Because it's all about your attention regulation. It's regulation of attention, not that you don't have it. Right? But it's regulation of emotions. It's regulation of impulsivity. It's regulation. So it's like if you're able to regulate it well, 1 half hour and another half hour you're not, then you could look totally different, right? Your ADHD could manifest itself differently between days, between hours.
Well, and we were just saying that I, like in one aspect of my life, I don't have an issue with that, but then in the other aspect of my life, I do.
Right.
So it could actually just not necessarily be hourly or time based. It could be task based.
That as well.
Interesting. Look at all the interesting things we think about.
I know. We're so curious. I love it.
We're so curious. Gosh.
Oh, man.
We're
like bragging on our curiosity today.
Man, we're the most curious people around. So cool.
Oh, Meg, I love you so much.
I love you too, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. This episode, we started a new series diving deep into the strategies for home organization through the book How ADHD Affects Home Organization by Lisa Woodruff. We hope you enjoyed us navigating our neurodivergent brains through curiosity, joy, and radical acceptance. Please take a moment to share this episode with someone you think would benefit from the conversation. Sharing the episode really helps us to continue building these episodes and creating better content for you. Also, don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're currently listening to so that you can get notified each week, because next week we'll be diving into flexible thinking and how it impacts our ability to organize our home. We will also be discussing strategies on how to overcome those challenges. So let's get working on overcoming these difficulties. But until then, here's to a great end of the week, and remember, stay curious.